name is Samantha and welcome to my YouTube channel, Sewing in Switzerland. And today we are in bucket hat heaven. We're going to be making a fully reversible lined bucket hat together. I'm very excited about this because I really love bucket hats. And if you follow me over on social media, you'll know that I like to match my outfits to my bucket hats and like use the same fabric, and I think it's so much fun. So a couple of notes on the patterns that we're using today, and then we'll get straight into it because you know I don't like a long intro. So today we are using the Elba Textiles bucket hat pattern, and that's, I believe, $5 Australian, so about £2.50. And you can actually use a variety of bucket hat patterns that are free, and I'll leave some links in the description of where you can find them. Just off the top of my head, you can definitely find them on the Mood Society website, and also the Spoonflower Fabrics company. They have a blog as well, and they've got a free bucket hat pattern as well that you can find. So you definitely don't need to purchase a pattern to complete this, and there are lots of different variations of the bucket hat out there. But today we're using the Elba Textiles one, but you can follow along with the same tutorial if you have a free pattern, so we don't need to be using the same pattern to complete and get the same garment. So it's fine, whatever you want to use. Secondly, I would like to point out that I have used a denim and a linen, but you can use whatever woven fabric you like. I've actually seen people in winter use like a teddy bear fleece, and that looks really fun. So yeah, I've gone for a woven because it's quite hot here, a lightweight woven that is, because it's quite hot here, but you can use whatever. And I believe that's it, so let's get straight into it. And just a couple notes actually on construction before we move on. So the way that I have constructed this is, today we are going to make one hat, the outside hat, and then we're secondly going to make the lining hat, and then we're going to kind of stitch them together to make the one hat. If you do have the Elba Textiles bucket hat pattern, you will notice that they follow a different set of instructions, where they start by constructing the lining fabric and the woven and the main fabric as one piece. But to be honest, I find that way more difficult and a lot more convoluted than just making like two shells and then stitching them together. So this is definitely the easiest way to make a bucket hat, and also the fastest way to make a bucket hat. So it's my favorite way to construct them, to be perfectly honest. So just in case you had the Elba Textiles pattern and wondered why it deviated from their instructions. And that's it, so let's get straight into it. I will just quickly show you what it looks like when it's folded down, so if you want it to keep it loosey-goosey. Very cool. And yeah, let's go on a sewing adventure together. Yay! Okay, so the first thing that we're going to need is the band pieces in the main fabric. So this is I say main fabric, but it is reversible. So I'm referring to the main fabric as the fabric that you will ordinarily wear on the outside. So just for clarification, so that we can talk about each piece separately. So the other fabric I will refer to as the lining fabric. So hopefully that makes sense. So the first thing we're going to do is take the band pieces, the main fabric band pieces, and the first thing we are going to do, so that we don't get in a pickle, is just pop a pin along the top, just one loose pin, not pinning it to anything, but this just indicates which side is the top of the piece, because I have made this before where I've then stitched the top of the hat along the bottom piece and it's ended up tiny, and the whole thing was just a lot of drama. So then we're going to get the outside, the right side facing up, and we're going to take the right side of the other piece and place it face down so that the right sides are together and they're sandwiched in the middle. And then we're just going to pin the edges here, the side seams, just a couple of pins. Looking good. And again, pin the other side as well. Lovely. So I'll just show you what that looks like laid out. Fantastic. So what we're going to do now is we're going to stitch down both sides here with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so just along both sides. And then once we've done that, we're going to press that seam open. So we're not going to trim it down, we're not going to finish it, we're not going to do anything with it. We're just going to press it open so that it's lying nice and flat. Okay, so 3/8 of a seam allowance. Mind you don't catch the pins that we put on the inside there, just to clarify that that's the top piece. So just be mindful when you're stitching, and then we'll meet back here. Okay, so I'm back from the machine, and you can see I've stitched up those side seams and pressed open those seams, looking good. So the next thing we want to do is turn it right side out. I'm just going to zoom out so I've got a little bit more space. So we are now looking at the right side of the fabric. Oh my gosh, I'm getting in a pickle. And that's the side band. Okay, so then we're going to grab a pair of scissors, and remember where we marked the top of the fabric, and we're going to, with our scissors, mark little notches all the way around. So just within the seam allowance, just tiny little notches, and then remove those pins. And we're going to go the whole way around. I'll just show you the notches. And that's basically just going to give a lot more ease when we're doing the attaching the top of the hat, which we're going to be doing next. So you want to go the whole way round. And that's why it's important to mark the top piece so that we don't end up attaching the wrong side. Because then it will be too small. So I'm just going to remove that pin. I think we're nearly the whole way around. Be mindful of your fingers when you're doing these kind of quick snips as well. I don't want anybody to message saying, oh my god, I lost a finger. That would not be great. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is attach the top of the hat. So I want you to grab the main piece for the top of the hat piece. Okay, so I've got the top piece there on the right side fabric. And then we're going to grab our right side fabric, and we're just going to find those notches that we marked when we cut the pattern out. There you go. So we've got one there. So these notches are going to match up with the side seam of the band piece. Here we go. Lovely. So we're just going to press that piece with the notch, line it up with the piece with the seam on the band. Here we go. And a quick tip for you, it's best to pin it with the pins on the side of the band, not the side of the top, because it makes it easier when we are sewing then. Okay, so I just realised I was holding it upside down. And now I've repinned the side seam with the snipped top here. So just double check that you're attaching the right piece to the right side. So we've done that one side seam, and now I'm just gonna shimmy it along to that other side seam. So here we go, the other side seam, second side seam, and the notch in that top piece there, and again just pin them. So this is the best way when attaching things on a circular, and this goes for anything on a circular really, cushions, clothes, whatever you're working on that's on the round. What you want to do is constantly be making halves. So that's going to make sense in a minute, I promise. So you can see now we've got the band there and we've got the top piece. So it's like we've halved it. We've got these two halves here and here. Okay, so I'm going to go and find roughly the middle of this side. So I'm just going to grab it like that. Double check that my seams are lining up on each side. Yeah. And this corner here, well, I say corner, but you know, there's half that we've made. And then we're going to roughly, just by eye, find the half of the top piece as well. And then we are going to pop a pin in it. And hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. If this isn't making sense at any point, do leave a comment and I will try and clarify it. So what we're doing is we're constantly halving everything, all the pieces. We're constantly halving the circle. I feel like my maths teacher would be proud. So we've now got this side seam here and this halfway point pin that we've just put in. So we're going to do it again. We're going to roughly, just by eye, find that middle and the middle of the top piece and stick a pin in it. And then flexing, you do have to pull ever so slightly, and I know this goes against everything that I normally tell you for not stretching things out, but the band is bigger than the top piece, so you will need to manipulate that fabric. So if it's kind of ending up and it's really baggy on one side and you're thinking, you know, holy macaroni, what am I going to do? Put the snips in and just pull it, so you can see where that denim is really pulling apart, where I'm just applying a little bit of pressure. I mean, I'm not ripping it or tearing it or anything. I'm just applying a little bit of pressure between my thumbs. So we're just going to pull that slightly and I'm going to go and pin it in the middle again. And by pinning it in the middle, it just gives you all that extra control and it allows you to really easily see how much you've got to manipulate and how much easier that becomes. Because when you've got this giant piece of fabric and it looks massive against the top and you're thinking, well, that's never going to fit, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So we just take it literally half by half by half. So then you pop a pin in and you can see we've got this lovely fitted lined up piece there. So then we're going to go on to the piece along from that and we're just going to find the middle again, and we're just going to do this the whole way around. And this is actually the technique that we're going to use with the whole hat. So we're going to do it with the brim piece as well. Brim full of us on the 45. Does anybody remember that song? Okay, and halfway in there, and then again here. So we're not too worried about all this like material down here. It's gonna be bigger. It's a bigger piece than the top. So just as long as you're not catching that, and again, you can see it's looking like it's not gonna fit, and then we're just gonna apply some pressure. Okay, I got to stop listening to Spotify before I do these videos. Okay, so I'm just gonna it can be fiddly because you need almost like an extra pair of hands to pin it while you hold it, but with a bit of practice it's fine, it's not a problem at all. But you know, it might take a few goes, so don't get disheartened. It is a fiddly project. It's an easy project, but it is a fiddly one. Okay, so now we're back to that other side seam there, so we've nearly done half of the hat. So I'm just going to find roughly the midpoints here for this next quarter. And then again, the midpoint in between. So yeah, you just want to be making those pieces smaller and smaller until it eventually, with a little bit of pulling, fits. So I'm actually just going to repin that because I've got a little bit extra fabric on the left. And then it becomes easier to see, like I just did there. I could see that that one was fitting fine, but this one, look, we got a little bit of a lip there where there's just a little bit too much fabric. So again, you might have to repin the same thing a few times. It's a great one for like if you're listening to music or you've got like a good show on, good Netflix series. But obviously don't look away from the pins. I'm not suggesting that you do that and then you know, pin all your fingers. We want no lost fingers from this video, okay, everyone? Lovely, so you can see how that's coming along. And then when we're sewing it under the machine as well, I want you to just apply that pressure again. So as it's kind of feeding through the machine, with your bottom hand, just hold that taut. Okay, don't let it loosey-goosey because then you'll end up with kind of ridges in the fabric. You want to be holding that taut, not pulling it away from the machine, but just holding it taut as it's feeding through to keep that nice straight line between each. Because look, if it's loosey, then you do get the bubbles of extra fabric. If you pull it taut, they disappear and it should sew super nicely. So again, we've got that side seam. So we're going to go for the middle here. Looking good. Then we're just going to apply that pressure again. Hold it taut. Put a pin in. And this is a really great skill actually for future sewing projects. So anything that has sewing on a curve or sewing in a round, making those little notches and learning to manipulate the fabric as you're pinning it is a really great skill, and this is a really good pattern to learn how to do that. So you can see we have got half. Looking good. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the other side now. The other side, and then we will meet back here and I'll give you the sewing instructions. Okay, so here we are with our heavily pinned top to the side panel there. What we're going to do now is we're going to take it to the machine and we're going to stitch this seam with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around, and just be careful with the fabric. Like I said, hold it nice and taut at the machine. Don't tug it, just nice and taut. There we go. And then we'll meet back here for the next piece. Yay! So I've gone ahead and stitched that, and as you can see, it's looking pretty amazing. So much fun. So I'll just turn it inside out to show you what that looks like. I've not cut my threads yet. So what you can do, especially if you've tried it on, definitely try it on now, by the way. And if it's feeling a little bit snug or you just want it to be a little bit more spacious, I do recommend just going around and snipping like we did before, where we snipped the top. As you can see, we've still got those snips. And just do it again with the top bit. All the way around. Be careful, I very nearly on camera just snipped through that side panel. I didn't, but be very, very careful. So yeah, go all the way around, adding extra snips. Be very careful that you don't snip into the stitching, of course. And then we will move on to the brim pieces. Okay, my friends, so I've got the brim pieces here. So like we did with the band pieces, pop a pin at the top of the pieces of the brim, just so we know what we're attaching what to in a second. Otherwise we'll end up trying to fit a bigger piece onto a smaller piece and it's chaos and it won't look good. So Just gonna pop that out of the way. So we got the brim here. Again, like we did with the band pieces, we're gonna lay them on top of each other. So we've got right sides together, sandwiched in the middle. We're gonna grab our pins and we're just going to line up those side edges, those side seams there. Pop a couple of pins in the way. And then just do the other side as well. We're going to take it to the machine and stitch them together on both sides. Again, with your standard 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Looking good. Okay, lovely. So again, when you're stitching, just be mindful of those pins that we've put in the top on the right hand side, just so that you don't sew over them. The other one's in there somewhere. And then we'll meet back here. So 3/8 of an inch, both sides, and then like we did with the band as well, press those seams open with your iron, and then we'll meet back here to attach it to the rest of the hat. Okay, so I have stitched it together. I've pressed the side seams open. Oh, looking pretty good. So I'm going to flip it so it's the right side out. Oh, that is just looking lovely. So now we're going to need the other part of our hat. And so we're going to find the side seams on the side band that we've got here. I've got some loose threads, get rid of them. So you can see the side seam there. And then with the top piece here that we've got, we will be attaching the side seam to the side seam and lining them up. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is, like we did before, I'm going to grab the scissors and just go around adding little notches all the way around, so that we get that little bit of extra ease so we can manipulate the brim to the band. Brim to the band. God, that would make a great album name. So all the way around, be careful you don't do your snips too big. Looking good. I hope that you're all really enjoying this. I am having so much fun. I love hats. I'm a huge hat person and I love making them. I find them really satisfying. It's like a really quick, satisfying sew, and then they look really great afterwards. I just love it. I think they're so much fun. I'm having a great time and I really hope that you are too. Yay! So we've gone the whole way around. So now we're going to find that side seam again. There it is. So we want to go right side to right side. Again with you, and make sure that you've got the top, the one that we marked with the pin there. We're just going to line them up. So this will be visible from the outside. I'm just going to trim that off. I don't know if you can see. I've got a slightly longer side panel there. If that happens to you, grab your scissors and just like even it out. There you go. And then it won't cause you any problems. Okay, so the top there, line them up. Side seams to side seams. So this might take a couple of goes to make sure that your seam lines line up, if that's something that bothers you. If it's not, then hey, don't worry about it. But a really good trick to make sure that your seams line up and to get like really fresh straight lines is, here we have the seam line. I'll just put it right up close. The seam here. Push your pin through the center and then through the center of the next one, and then like pin it together. Basically that will ensure, it is a bit fiddly, sorry, but it does ensure that you have nice straight seams. I'm just going to move mine up a little bit higher. And then if you flip it, your seams, there we go. Ha ha ha! See that line match up with that line there? It's so cool. It works every time. Works every time. Okay, I really gotta stop with the nonsense pop culture here. Is anybody gonna see the new Legally Blonde film actually when it comes out? Okay, so now I've just spun it round so that we're on the other side. So you can see we've got the other side of the seam, the other side of the hat seam, and we're just going to line them up, pop a pin in it, make sure it's nice and straight, looking good. And then we have the exact same situation that we had before. So we need to make sure that the hat matches the piece that we're attaching it to, because one is obviously bigger than the other. So I've got the side seams here. Lovely. Lovely. I'm just going to push them together and then just run my finger through. And that is the best way to find that midpoint on that side. So you can see it's a very rough guesstimate, but it's closer than not. And then again, we've got a slightly bigger piece. So again, I'm just going to find that halfway point, and I'm just doing it by eye. We really don't need to get particularly technical with this. Sorry if you just had my elbow crack on the video. And the halfway point again. And you see, by making the points so much smaller, it's just so much easier to then secure it. Oh, there goes my elbow again. I'm so sorry. There we go. Pop a pin there. And it makes stitching on that round and like kind of pinning it together, gosh, it makes it look so easy for something that is a bit tricky and can be quite frustrating. But like I always say in my videos, everyone, if you are having any problems or anything I'm saying or showing you doesn't make sense, do message me in the comments and just say, hey Sam, help me, and I'll come back to you and we'll hash it out together. It's absolutely no trouble at all. And like I always say in my videos, I'm just going to remove that pin from the inside now because we don't need that. I am a huge fan of sewing, and I don't believe in gatekeeping knowledge. I want everybody to walk away from this having learned some new things and be able to make stuff, and I think that's really super cool. So if you ever do get stuck on one of my videos, then please just reach out to me. Okay, and you can see here this bit is just a little bit bigger. So we're just going to make sure that we're really pulling on that inside piece there. Pop an extra pin in it, exactly like how we attached the band to the top. Hopefully you can see this okay. I've kind of got the tripod angled from me, so I'm pinning it a bit wobbly handed. And again, you can see I've got that side seam there, and I've just gone for that in between again. So we're constantly halving the space until it's completely flat or snug on each side. And then you can see we are already 1/2 down. Looking good, my friends. So I'm going to go ahead and pin the other side, and then we'll meet back here for some sewing instructions. Okay, so we are pinned and ready to go. So you can see I've gone the whole way around with the pins now. So you can actually just flip it without and stabbing yourself with the pins, you can see how that is going to look. And it is just gorgeous. Oh, yes, I do love a good bucket hat. Okay, so we're going to go to the machine now, my friends, and we're going to do 3/8 of an inch, exactly like we did before, the whole way around. So do be careful when you're stitching this, exactly the same way when we did the top to the band piece. At the machine, don't tug it, but do hold it nice and taut. So you don't want to be pulling it away from the needle, just holding it nice and taut so that we don't get any of that like bubbling there, you can see. So when we hold it taut, nice and flat. Okay, so just a little bit of pressure will help that glide through nice and smooth. And then I will see you back here for next steps. Okay, so I'm back from the machine and it's looking amazing. And remember how we went round again and snipped again into the seam allowance there? We're just going to go around again. Again, this one is actually optional, but you know what? I think a little bit of ease makes all the difference. So just go the whole way around, and again, be super careful that you're not snipping into the side or anything like that, because that would be super upsetting. So then I'm just going to flip it out. Oh gosh, it looks amazing. And remember where we lined up that side seam? Oh gosh, isn't that just gorgeous to look at? Oh, it's so satisfying. So we've got this amazing hat. We're done, my friends. We are done with the first piece. So now what I want you to do is grab the lining fabrics. And by lining fabrics, I literally just mean your second fabric to make it reversible. And then I want you to stop this video now and rewind it to the beginning and repeat the exact same way that we made this hat. So you're going to end up with two of these essentially in two different fabrics, or the same fabric. I will say now, if you do want a nice stiff brim, then go ahead and interface the brim pieces. So that's this piece, just to clarify. So go ahead and interface the lining brim face if you want a stiffer brim piece. And then just repeat all of the steps that we have done up until this point. And then we'll meet back here to attach the two hats together to make one reversible hat. So stop here, rewind to the beginning and redo this in a second fabric. And then I will see you shortly. Okay, my friends, welcome back. So at this point you should have two matching hats out of either two different fabrics or the same fabric. It doesn't matter depending on what look you're going for, but there should be two at this point to make the reversible hat. I mean, you can get away with just wearing like one as a super light piece, especially in high summer and like a light fabric. So I wouldn't discourage you from doing that if you only want to make one. However, we're going for a reversible look here, so I've got two. So if you're continuing with me at this point making the reversible one, you should also have two. So what we're going to do, I've got my lining one here in a nice light linen. I am going to flip it. So you want both hats at this point right sides out. So you can see this is my right side, that's my right side. Then pick up your lining fabric and turn it inside out. Look at that, delicious guts, lovely. And then we're gonna pop the main fabric, or in my case the denim fabric, inside the lining. Okay, so you're looking at the, just to clarify here, you're looking at the inside of the lining piece, okay? And then it's right sides on the inside, right sides are together. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to match up our side seams. So the side seam on the brim and the side seam on the brim of the lining one again, right side to right side, just to double check, right side to right side, okay, friends? And then we're going to pin them together. So remember that super fun trick that I told you? You want to go, I'll put it right close. You want to go between that seam there and between that seam there, and then you'll end up with matching seams. It's such a cool tip. Such a cool tip. So cool. I'm just gonna try and do it one-handed, so you'll just have to bear with me a sec here, friends. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to go around. So I'm just going to find the other side seam. So we always want to put the pin the side seams together first of all. And that's the same for throughout this project, actually. Cool. So just pop a couple of pins there to secure that. Lovely jubbly. And then I'm just going to go around and pin this one side. There's one half of the hat, and then we'll talk about the second half in a sec. So, all the way around. And again, you can see that I haven't interfaced the brim piece of my lining fabric because I did want it to have a bit of a floppy feel. I feel like the dragonflies on the denim have this really nice, relaxed nature feel. So I wanted it to remain relaxed and a bit floppy. Lovely. So that's halfway. So we'll just take a quick look. So we got the inside there, looking lovely. Ta-da! And then here, on the other half, what I want you to do is just slightly away from the seam here. So we'll just pop another pin in. Okay, and now we're going to leave a gap that we are not going to sew. So bear with me. What I'm going to do is to mark the area that I don't want to sew, because we want to leave that open so that we can turn the hat like right side out when we've stitched it all together. So I'm going to stick a second pin right next to this pin, and that's going to be my indicator that these two pins together mean end of no sew. And then I'm just going to go along here. So it's just so when I'm at the machine, I can really see visually where not to sew, which is a good tip because you get to the machine and, you know, it's not always clear where to sew, where not to sew. So that's about the size of the gap. So I'll just lay it down so you can see how big a gap. So about a finger's width away. Lovely. And then we're just gonna go ahead and pin the rest as before. Oh gosh, this is gonna look so good when it's done. I'm so excited, and I'm really excited to see yours if you followed along with this. So do please comment or send me a photo or let me know what fabrics you're making. I would really love to know. I get very excited. Okay, lovely, cool. So it's all together. So we're going to take this to machine, and exactly like before, we're going to go 3/8 of an inch seam allowance the whole way around, except here. Okay, so we're going to leave that gap for turning. Okay, and then I will see you back here. Okay, my friends, it is almost time for the big reveal. So you can see I've gone ahead and stitched the outside there. It's probably easier to see from the inside. And remembering our hole here, we are now going to turn it inside out. Okay, so this is going to take a minute or two. So go ahead and flip it inside out. Like that. And then we've got like hat to hat at this point. And then get your lining fabric and just kind of push it inside. I find the easiest way and the best way to get it all like to line up nicely is just to kind of do this, jiggle it around, and then ta-da, here we have our lined hat. Very exciting stuff. Oh gosh, it just looks fantastic. So now go to the iron and just give that a press from the outside, so it just kind of secures that on the inside there. So give that a nice good press. Someone outside with a lawnmower and my dog's having a breakdown because of it. No mowing lawns allowed. So yeah, go to the iron, give that a nice press, and then you can see we've still got this hole. So that should, because that'll be bigger than the seam allowance that we used. If you just kind of pop your fingers in each corner, kind of like a mouth. Hello. Guys, I think I've lost the plot here. So just, yeah, pop it inside and then just pull gently, and they should kind of, that's really hard to do at an angle. There we go. They should kind of line themselves up quite nicely. And press that. Hello. Give that a nice press so that it lies nice and flat. And then what we'll do is we'll do a nice top stitch in a minute and secure that shut. So I will see you in a sec after some pressing. Okay, my friends, so I've gone ahead and given the hat a good steamy press, so you can see that edge is looking much nicer now. Okay, and here we've got our open bit that we turned out. So what we're going to do now is we're going to top stitch all the way around the edge of the brim, and this is entirely your choice. Okay, you can use a thread that is the same color as either the lining fabric or the main fabric here. Or you can use a completely different color if you wanted to give it, you know, a pop. I'm going to go ahead and use a white stitch line because I think that'll go really nice with both the yellow and the denim here. So take it to your machine and just line it up as close to the edge as you can. So I line the edge of the presser foot or with the edge of the fabric here, and then just go around and make sure when you get to the open piece that that is holding nice and closed there. Okay, so we want to make sure that we basically catch that so that it seals shut. So what I would recommend actually is just popping a couple of pins to A, hold it in place, and B, just so you know when that's coming up, just to double check that that seam is enclosed inside to seal that up. And I'll just give you a sneak peek actually. So this is the inside, so it's looking really nice. So we'll do that first row of top stitching and the closing of that gap there, and then I'll meet you back here and we'll talk about next steps. Hello fellow bucket hat people, I am back from the machine. I have done that stitch there. I think it looks really nice with that pop of white against the denim, and then on the inside you can not really see the thread on the yellow, but there's like a nice impression of it there. Gosh, it looks fantastic. I am so happy with this. I'm so happy with every bucket hat I've ever made actually. So that is the edge enclosed, the turning edge that we had, the first line of stitching. So now you can either leave it like this, super floppy, super chill, super relaxed, or you can add some stitch lines around the brim, and that'll just give a little bit of reinforcement to the hat, to the hat brim. So if you wanted to wear it up like this, and this is typically how I wear mine, propped up, then it would be nice to have an extra few lines of stitching, because that helps to stiffen it and hold it in place, especially if you haven't used any interfacing. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of rows of stitching exactly like this first line of stitching that I've done, but more of them, working my way up the brim of the hat. So I'm probably going to have maybe 3 lines. So how are we going to do this? Well, you want to put the hat exactly like this on the machine, and you want to line up this first row of stitching that we've got here with the edge of the presser foot. And this is the best tip I can give you for getting straight stitching, because it's all very well doing it by eye, but gosh, it's tricky. It is tricky to get a perfect line of straight stitching, although I always say there's no such thing as perfect, so you know, just give it a go. But that's my top tip. I line up the very edge, the very right hand edge of the presser foot with that row of stitching, and then just follow it round as a guideline, and that really helps. So I will see you back here with our extra rows of stitching. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done 4 lines of stitching, all with the same kind of presser foot width apart, and that's kept it really nice and even. So just a final look really at how it's turned out. And do you know what, if you're into embroidery, it would be super cool if you embroidered some stitches, or if you have a machine that does like decorative stitches, that would also look incredible on the front of the hat. It doesn't have to be just a standard running stitch. You can get really creative with it, actually. And I have seen hats that people have like embroidered details like about the garment itself. So I saw someone had embroidered the date onto the stitch of the hat, which I thought was so cool, like the date that they made it. And I just find that so fascinating and so creative, and I just love it so much. So that is how it's looking. So yeah, I think I'll leave it there. I don't want to stitch right up to the edge of the brim, but you can do. But you can see now, compared to earlier, we've got a lot more structure, even without the interfacing, than it's sitting up on its own, which is super cool. And congratulations, you have just made your bucket hat, and I'm really proud of you. I would love to know, did you enjoy this tutorial? What fabrics have you used? Are you gonna match it to your garments? I love to make clothes and then match a bucket hat to it. I think it just brings the whole outfit together and it looks super fun. And always, I would really love it if you would like and subscribe to my channel. That would make me very happy. Thank you so much, and I wish you all a great day. Until next time, bye!